In the quiet corners of our memory, there exist gardens from a time gone by. The gardens of our grandparents, perhaps, places of wonder where the air hummed with bees and was heavy with the scent of blooms we rarely encounter today. These were not the highly manicured landscapes we often see now, but sprawling, generous spaces where life, in all its floral diversity, thrived with a gentle wildness. Here, flowers grew not just for their appearance, but for their scent, their story, and their place in the heart of the home. And so, I invite you to join me on a journey back in time. We will wander through these phantom gardens together, rediscovering 20 flowers that were once the soul of the cottage garden but have since faded from view. Let us begin. Our journey begins with a flower that keeps its own time, a remarkable plant known as the 4 o'clock. It lives its life in anticipation of the fading light. Throughout the heat of the day, its petals remain tightly furled, a collection of colorful, trumpet-shaped buds holding their breath, waiting. As the clock strikes 4, or thereabouts, a remarkable transformation occurs. One by one, the buds begin to unfurl, revealing vibrant blooms of magenta, yellow, white, or a marvelous marbled combination of all three. They open to greet the evening, releasing a sweet, jasmine-like fragrance into the cooling air. This scent, a fragrant invitation to nocturnal pollinators like the hawk moth, was the perfume of many a summer evening in the cottage gardens of old. This daily ritual made the 4 o'clock a beloved fixture, often planted near porches or windows, where its performance and perfume could be fully appreciated. Next, we find a flower of exquisite delicacy, one whose very name whispers of romance and mystery, love in a mist. Its scientific name, Nigella damascena, hints at its origins in the ancient landscapes of the Middle East, but it found a particularly cherished home in the intricate gardens of the Victorian era. Here, its ethereal beauty was perfectly suited to a time when gardens were filled with symbolism and hidden meanings. The flower itself seems to be nestled within a soft green haze. This misty appearance is created by a network of fine, feathery bracts that surround the bloom, like a delicate lace veil. After the bloom has faded, the plant offers a second act of beauty. The seed pod begins to swell, forming an inflated, papery capsule striped with purple, resembling a tiny ornate lantern. There are few fragrances in the plant kingdom as powerfully evocative as that of the sweet pea. It is the very essence of a summer's day in a country garden, a scent that is both intensely sweet and refreshingly clean. For generations, these climbing beauties with their delicate butterfly-like blossoms were an absolute staple. They scrambled up trellises, covered fences in a cascade of color, and provided an endless supply of blooms for the house. The flowers, borne on slender stems, have ruffled petals that look like they are made of crepe paper. Colored in an astonishing range of soft pastels, vibrant jewel tones, and deep velvety maroons. The ritual of picking sweet peas was a daily summer pleasure. The more you picked, the more the plant would flower, a generous reward for the gardener's attention. In the landscapes of memory, few flowers stand as tall and proud as the hollyhock. These are the garden's sentinels, towering spires of color that once stood guard along the sun-drenched walls of barns and the weathered slats of picket fences. The flowers themselves are large, open-faced discs arranged up the entire length of the sturdy stalk. They bloom in a succession from the bottom to the top, ensuring a long season of color. Hollyhocks were more than just ornamental. Their deep roots helped to break up heavy soil, and for generations of children, the fallen blooms became instant dolls, with a turned-over bud for a head and the wide petals for a voluminous skirt. Plagued in modern times by a rust fungus, they require more care than they once did, which has sadly led to their decline as the effortless, towering giants of our grandparents' gardens. We move now from the sunlit spires of the hollyhock to the dappled light of the woodland garden, the preferred home of a plant with one of the most descriptive names imaginable, the bleeding heart. To see it in bloom is to understand its name completely. From elegantly arching fern-like stems, a series of perfect heart-shaped lockets are suspended. Each pink locket has a single white teardrop, the bleeding portion, emerging from its base. This plant, Lamprocapnos spectabilis, was a treasure of the shady border. It would emerge in early spring, its soft, dissected foliage a welcome sight after the starkness of winter. Its decline in popularity may be due to its ephemeral nature. After its spring display, the foliage often dies back, leaving a gap in the border. But for those gardeners who valued fleeting, seasonal moments of perfection, the annual return of the bleeding heart was a cherished event. There is a certain wild nobility to the foxglove. It is a plant that bridges the gap between the untamed woodland and the cultivated garden. Its tall, stately spikes, hung with a multitude of bell-shaped flowers, have an air of ancient magic about them. In folklore, they were said to be the gloves of fairies, and their presence in a classic English garden lent it an atmosphere of timeless, natural elegance. The individual flowers of the Digitalis purpurea are a marvel of natural design. Each thimble-shaped bloom is a perfect landing platform for a bee, its primary pollinator. The lower lip of the bell provides a place to rest, while the inside is intricately speckled and spotted, markings that act as nectar guides. While beautiful, the foxglove holds a powerful secret. Every part of the plant is poisonous, containing cardiac glycosides. This duality of life-giving beauty and deadly potential perhaps adds to its mystique. We now encounter a flower whose color is so iconic it has a shade named after it, cornflower blue. The bachelor's button, or Centaurea cyanus, was once a common sight, not just in gardens, but also as a wildflower growing in fields of grain. Its brilliant, intense blue is a rare and precious thing in the natural world, a splash of pure sky brought down to earth. The name bachelor's button is thought to have come from the old practice of young men in love wearing one in their buttonhole. If the flower faded quickly, it was a sign that their love was not returned. Easy to grow from seed and thriving in full sun, bachelor's buttons were the quintessential cut-and-come-again flower. The more you picked for small bouquets and buttonholes, the more the plant produced. Resembling a more delicate, feathery version of its cousin, the delphinium, the larkspur was once the backbone of the cutting garden. Its tall, elegant spires, densely packed with intricate blooms, brought a much-needed vertical element to old-fashioned bouquets. Growing these annuals from seed was a yearly ritual for many gardeners who cherished them for their airy grace and their rich palette of colors, from deep indigo and violet to sky blue, rose pink, and pure white. They were particularly prized for their use in dried flower arrangements. If cut at their peak and hung upside down in a dark, airy place, larkspur spires would retain their shape and much of their color for months or even years. They allowed gardeners to preserve the beauty of their summer borders long into the bleakness of winter. As spring begins to melt into the warmth of early summer, the air in old gardens was often filled with a particular clove-like fragrance, especially in the evening. This was the perfume of Dame's Rocket, a tall, branching plant with loose clusters of four-petaled flowers. It is often mistaken for phlox, but a simple count of the petals reveals its identity. While phlox has 5 petals, the Dame's Rocket, Hesperus matronalis, always has 4, placing it firmly in the mustard family. This plant was the epitome of cottage garden charm. It wasn't neat or tidy, it was a generous, sprawling presence that would self-seed freely, creating large, naturalistic drifts of purple, lilac, and white. Its greatest asset was its scent, which intensifies dramatically as dusk falls. Planting it near a path or a seating area was common practice, ensuring its sweet, spicy perfume could be enjoyed during quiet evening moments in the garden. Rising from the back of the border was a plant of truly unique and dramatic structure, the spider flower. Its common name is a perfect description of its appearance. From a tall, sturdy stem, enormous flower heads explode into a sphere of long, delicate stamens and slender petals, looking for all the world like a graceful, ethereal spider. The cleome, to give it its proper name, is a plant of impressive stature, often reaching 5 or 6 feet tall. The flowers, typically in shades of pink, rose, purple, and white, bloom from the bottom of the flower head upwards, ensuring a long-lasting display. As the lower flowers fade, long, thin seed pods form, hanging down below the fresh blooms and enhancing the spidery, leggy look. If there is one flower on our list that was grown almost exclusively for its scent, it is the tuberose. This is not a subtle fragrance. It is a powerful, complex, and utterly intoxicating perfume. The scent of tuberose is legendary, a rich, creamy, and exotic aroma that has been a prized ingredient in the world's most expensive perfumes for centuries. The plant itself, Polyanthes tuberosa, grows from a bulb-like tuber. It sends up a tall, slender stalk, which bears a cluster of waxy, white, tubular flowers at its peak. The fragrance is at its most potent after nightfall, a strategy to attract its nocturnal pollinator, the moth. Growing tuberose requires some effort, especially in cooler climates. The tubers often need to be lifted and stored over winter, a gardening chore that has become less common. In stark contrast to the powerful perfume of the tuberose, we find a flower that was cherished for its subtle, understated fragrance, Mignonette. Its name, from the French for little darling, perfectly captures its humble charm. The Victorians, with their love for nuanced scents and floral symbolism, adored Mignonette. It was a staple of the scented garden and was frequently planted in window boxes or in pots near doorways. Here, its sweet ambrosial scent, often described as a mix of raspberry and violet, could drift indoors on a summer breeze. It was a fragrance that you might not notice at first, but one that would suddenly make you stop and wonder where that delightful smell was coming from. Its popularity declined as gardens became more about curb appeal and bold, colorful bedding schemes. The quiet, intimate pleasure of Mignonette's scent was lost in the quest for bigger, brighter blooms. Another giant of the fragrant garden, now sadly seen less often, is the stock. These plants were treasured for their dense spires of flowers that exuded a rich, spicy, clove-like scent. The fragrance is warm and comforting, a nostalgic aroma that for many is the definitive smell of a traditional cottage garden. Mathiola incana, the common stock, produces blooms in a wonderful array of soft, gentle colors. Creamy whites, pale yellows, soft lavenders, rosy pinks, and deep magentas were all common. They were a mainstay of the cutting garden, as their strong stems and long-lasting flowers made them perfect for indoor arrangements, bringing both their beauty and their pervasive scent into the home. Stocks are cool weather lovers, often planted in early spring or autumn. Their preference for cooler temperatures might be one reason for their decline in areas with increasingly hot summers. Much like the 4 o'clock, the evening primrose is a flower of the twilight, a plant that saves its spectacular performance for when most other flowers are closing up for the night. During the day, it's a rather unassuming plant, with tall stems and simple, lance-shaped leaves. But as dusk descends, a magical event begins. The tightly furled yellow buds begin to tremble, and then, in a motion that is visibly fast, they unfurl into beautiful lemon-scented chalices. The flowers, Enothera bienis, are a luminous pale yellow, a color that seems to glow in the fading light, making them highly visible to their target audience, night-flying moths. The evening primrose was a common feature of old informal gardens, often found along pathways or at the edge of a vegetable patch. It would self-seed readily, ensuring its return year after year. Few flowers are as cheerful and quintessentially cottage garden as Sweet William. This charming biennial, a close relative of the carnation, was beloved for its dense, flattened clusters of small, fringed flowers. Each flower head is like a miniature bouquet in itself, held aloft on a sturdy, straight stem. The beauty of Sweet William, or Dianthus barbatus, is in the detail. The individual flowers often have contrasting eyes or lacy, picoty edges, creating stunning patterns across the flower head. The colors range from pure white to pink, deep red, and rich crimson, often in striking bicolor combinations, and they possess a wonderfully rich, spicy, clove-like fragrance, a signature of the Dianthus family, which would perfume the air around them. As a biennial, Sweet William requires the gardener to think ahead, sowing seeds one year for flowers the next. This 2-year life cycle is a gardening rhythm that has become less popular in an age of instant gratification offered by commercially grown annuals. Long before the main flush of summer color, when the garden is just waking from its winter slumber, the wallflower would provide a glorious burst of warmth and fragrance. These hardy perennials and biennials were traditionally planted in the autumn, where they would establish their roots over winter and be ready to explode into bloom at the first hint of spring. They were often tucked into the crevices of stone walls, hence their name, where they seemed to thrive on the warmth radiated by the stone. The scent of the wallflower, Erysimum, is unique, a sweet, velvety perfume that is one of the defining fragrances of early spring. The flowers grow in dense clusters at the top of woody stems, and their color palette is one of rich, earthy jewel tones: deep oranges, velvety maroons, rustic reds, burnished golds, and deep purples. The practice of planting out biennials like wallflowers in the autumn has waned significantly. It requires space, planning, and a tolerance for the sight of green rosettes of leaves all winter. It's far easier to buy instant color annuals in the spring. There is a storybook quality to the Canterbury bell, a flower that looks as though it has been plucked directly from the pages of a medieval manuscript. These majestic biennials produce tall, stately spires hung with large, bell or cup-shaped flowers. Their grand scale and unique form made them a dramatic and much-loved feature in the middle of an old-fashioned herbaceous border, where they would command attention and add a touch of architectural elegance. The flowers of Campanula medium are truly magnificent. The most common form is the cup and saucer, where each large, bell-shaped flower sits within a flattened, saucer-like calyx of the same color. They bloom in beautiful shades of deep violet, lavender blue, soft pink, and pure white. To see a tall spike of these in full bloom, with each bell perfectly formed, is to witness a truly impressive floral display. Here we have another treasure of the Twilight Garden, a plant grown as much for its evening fragrance as for its delicate flowers, Nicotiana, or flowering tobacco. A relative of the commercial tobacco plant, this ornamental version was a beloved staple for its powerful jasmine-like scent that it releases only after the sun has set. Planting it near a patio, bedroom window, or a frequently used evening door was a common practice, ensuring its intoxicating perfume could be fully appreciated. The flowers of the classic Nicotiana alata are long, slender tubes that flare out into five-pointed stars. The old-fashioned varieties were typically white or greenish-white, their pale color making them luminous in the moonlight and highly attractive to the night-flying moths that pollinate them. Modern breeding has produced shorter, more colorful varieties that stay open during the day, but this has often been at the cost of the magnificent fragrance of the heirloom night-scented types. Our penultimate flower is one that was grown for its beauty in two distinct seasons. In the spring, it offers a cheerful display of purple or white four-petaled flowers, similar to its cousin, the dame's rocket. But it is the plant's second act, in the autumn and winter, that gave it its most common names, Honesty or the silver dollar plant. It is a plant of transformation, offering a different kind of beauty long after the petals have fallen. After flowering, Lunaria annua produces flat, round seed pods. Initially, these are green and unremarkable, but as they dry on the plant, the two outer casings fall away to reveal a central membrane that is thin, pearlescent, and beautifully translucent, like a disc of mother-of-pearl or a silver coin. These dried stems, with their shimmering discs, were a staple of everlasting bouquets. They were brought indoors to catch the low winter light, their silvery pods gleaming in vases for months on end. We conclude our journey with a flower whose scent is the stuff of legend, the Heliotrope. The fragrance is often described as a delectable blend of vanilla, cherry, and almond, a sweet, comforting aroma that has earned it the nickname cherry pie plant. In the Victorian era, a time of great floral passion, the heliotrope was considered an absolute essential for any scented garden or conservatory. Its perfume is deeply nostalgic and utterly captivating. The flowers themselves are tiny, clustered together in large heads that face the sun, which is the origin of their name from the Greek for sun and to turn. The most prized varieties, like Heliotropium arborescens, boasted a deep, rich violet-purple color that was as intoxicating as their scent. They were often grown in pots and urns where their fragrance could be appreciated up close and they could be moved indoors to survive the winter. Tender and demanding of care, the heliotrope is not an easy plant. The decline of the classic fragrant heliotrope is perhaps the ultimate example of our trade-off of sensory richness for horticultural convenience. And so, our walk through the gardens of yesterday comes to an end. These 20 flowers, with their unique scents, forms, and stories, represent more than just lost horticultural trends. They are living threads connecting us to our past, to the hands of grandparents who found joy in their daily unfolding and nightly perfume. The rustle of a hollyhock, the scent of a sweet pea, the evening glow of a primrose. These are the sensory heirlooms they left for us, a legacy written in petals and leaves waiting to be reread. Perhaps this journey has stirred a memory for you. Do you recall the spicy scent of stalks on a cool spring day, or the charming sight of love in a mist in a grandparent's border? Or perhaps, against all odds, you are one of the dedicated few who still cultivates these treasures. If so, I would be deeply moved to hear your stories in the comments below. Sharing these memories is how we keep the spirit of these gardens alive, passing their stories on to a new generation. Thank you for joining me on this nostalgic exploration. By remembering and celebrating these lost gems, we do more than just reminisce. We preserve a vital part of our gardening heritage. If you enjoyed this journey and wish to uncover more stories from the world of plants, please consider subscribing. Together, we can ensure that the beauty and wonder of these extraordinary flowers are never truly forgotten.